Have you ever asked yourself, are we celebrating Eid the way Allah truly wants us to? It is not just about new clothes, delicious food, or gathering with family. It is not just a cultural festival or a break from routine. It is an act of worship, a day gifted by Allah after a month of sacrifice, patience, and devotion. But today, many of us unknowingly turn this sacred occasion into something that slowly loses its spiritual essence. We prepare more for our outfits than our hearts. We plan feasts, but forget gratitude. And we celebrate loudly, but sometimes forget the one who gave us the reason to celebrate. Think about it. After striving through Ramadan fasting, praying, making dua, shouldn't Eid be the day we come closest to Allah, not drift away? The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, showed us that Eid is a day of joy. Yes, but a pure, meaningful, and spiritually uplifting joy. A joy that strengthens faith, builds unity, spreads kindness, and pleases Allah. So the real question is, are we celebrating Eid or just experiencing it? In today's video, you'll discover the true Sunnah way to celebrate Eid, simple, beautiful, and deeply rewarding. If you follow these steps, your Eid won't just be memorable, it will be accepted. Watch till the end, because the final message might completely change how you see Eid forever. And if you want to strengthen your iman and follow authentic guidance, subscribe now to Men Guidance. Eid does not begin with the sunrise, it begins with a state of the heart. As the final moments of Ramadan slip away and the night of Eid arrives, many hearts become distracted with last-minute preparations, shopping, gatherings, and outward excitement. But pause for a moment and reflect. What was the purpose of the entire month you just completed? Was it not to become more conscious of Allah, more grateful, more connected? Allah reminds us in the Quran, so that you complete the prescribed period and glorify Allah for guiding you, and perhaps you will be grateful. This verse shifts our entire perspective. Eid is not merely a celebration of completion, it is a celebration of guidance. You were guided to fast, guided to pray, guided to pray, guided to make dua, guided to restrain yourself when no one else was watching. And that guidance alone is worth more than any worldly celebration. Gratitude, then, is not just a feeling, it is an act of worship. It is expressed through your tongue in remembrance, through your heart in humility, and through your actions in obedience. The companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, understood this deeply. They would fill the night of Eid with takbeer, glorifying Allah, repeating Allahu Akbar. Not as a ritual, but as a realization that Allah is greater than everything they sacrificed and everything they gained. Imagine a heart that exits Ramadan still remembering Allah constantly, still lowering itself in humility, 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 still lowering itself in humility. That is the heart that truly understands Eid. But here is where a subtle danger begins to creep in. When gratitude fades, heedlessness slowly takes its place. When the tongue stops remembering Allah, it easily falls into idle or even harmful speech. When the heart no longer reflects, it becomes comfortable with distraction. And this transition can happen so quietly that a person doesn't even realize it. One moment they are in deep ibadah during Ramadan, and the next they are completely absorbed in the dunya, as if the entire journey never happened. This is why beginning Eid with remembrance is not just recommended, it is protection. Protection from losing what you worked so hard to build. Because if the night of Eid is spent in forgetfulness instead of gratitude, then what guarantee is there that the day of Eid will be any different? And if the day begins without Allah at its center, then even the most beautiful preparations, your clothes, your appearance, your outward presentation may carry no weight in the sight of Allah. In fact, they may slowly shift your intention away from pleasing Him to pleasing people, and that is a loss far greater than we realize. When the morning of Eid arrives, Islam teaches us that even the way we present ourselves carries spiritual meaning. This is not just about appearance. It is about honoring a day that Allah Himself has granted you. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, would prepare for Eid by performing ghusl, cleansing himself completely before stepping out for prayer. This act alone shows that Eid is not an ordinary day. It is a day where you stand before Allah in a state of purity, dignity, and respect. You are not just getting ready to meet people. You are not just getting ready to meet your Lord in a gathering of Abidah. He, peace be upon him, would also wear his best clothes on Eid, not out of pride, but out of gratitude. There is a profound difference between dressing well for Allah and dressing to impress others. One elevates your sincerity, while the other slowly corrupts it. Islam encourages beauty, cleanliness, and pleasant appearance, but always within the boundaries of modesty. Wearing clean, neat, and appropriate clothing is part of the sunnah, and even applying a light fragrance is recommended as long as it is done with the right intention. But this is where the test of the heart becomes very subtle. In today's world, Eid has often turned into a display. Who has the best outfit? Who looks the most stylish? Who receives the most compliments? Social media amplifies this even more, where the focus shifts from ibadah to attention. And without realizing it, a person can begin their Eid by seeking validation from people rather than acceptance from Allah. What starts as a simple intention to look presentable can slowly turn into arrogance, comparison, and even showing off. Ask yourself honestly, when you choose your clothes for Eid, what is your intention? Is it to follow the sunnah and thank Allah for His blessings? Or is it to compete, to stand out, to be admired? Because Allah does not look at your appearance, but at your heart and your intentions, a simple outfit worn with sincerity can be more beloved to Allah than the most expensive clothing worn for pride. There is also a balance that must be maintained. Islam does not ask you to suppress joy or neglect your appearance, but it warns against excess and immodesty. Tight, revealing, or extravagant clothing that draws unnecessary attention contradicts the very spirit of Eid. True beauty in Islam is not just how you look. It is how your appearance reflects your humility and obedience to Allah. And if the focus of your mourning slowly shifts from preparing your soul to perfecting your outward image, then something essential begins to slip away. Because once the intention is compromised, even acts that seem good on the surface can lose their reward. And when that happens, the next step in your Eid, what you give, how you share, and whether you remember those in need, can also be affected in ways you might not immediately notice. Before the joy of Eid Salat fills the air, and before the gatherings and celebrations begin, Islam places a powerful responsibility upon every capable believer. A responsibility that ensures your happiness is not isolated, but shared. This is the giving of Zakat al-Fitr, a charity that carries both a spiritual and social purpose. It is not simply an act of generosity. It is an obligation that completes your Ramadan. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, made it clear that this charity purifies the fasting person from any shortcomings and provides for those who are less fortunate, allowing them to also experience the joy of Eid. He said, the fast remains suspended between heaven and earth until Zakat al-Fitr is paid. Reflect on the weight of this statement. Reflect on the weight of this statement. After a month of ibadah, sacrifice, hunger and dua, your deeds are still awaiting completion, waiting for this final act of sincerity. Zakat al-Fitr is a reminder that ibadah in Islam is never just personal. It is deeply connected to the well-being of others. You may have spent nights in prayer and days in fasting, but if the poor around you are left struggling on the day of Eid, then something essential is missing from the spirit of your worship. Islam does not celebrate individual success while ignoring collective hardship. Rather, it builds a community way. Real joy flows from one heart to another, where no one feels abandoned or forgotten on a day meant for happiness. And yet this is where the silent neglect often occurs. Some delay giving it, some forget entirely, and others treat it as a minor detail rather than a central obligation. In the rush of preparing for Eid, buying clothes, arranging food, planning gatherings, this duty can be overlooked, even though it holds more weight than many of the things we prioritize. What is even more concern is that when it is delayed until after the Eid prayer, it no longer holds the same status. It becomes just another charity, and the opportunity to complete your fast in the prescribed manner slips away. Think about the deeper wisdom behind this command. It teaches you that your ibadah is not just about your connection with Allah, but also about your responsibility toward His creation. It softens your heart, removes selfishness, and replaces it with compassion. When you give Zakat al-Fitr, you are not losing anything. You are elevating your abidah, purifying your intentions, and ensuring that your Eid is meaningful not just for you, but for others as well. But if this essential act is neglected, then a subtle imbalance begins to form. You may step into Eid prayer with excitement, surrounded by people, dressed in your best, but without fulfilling this duty, something remains incomplete. And when something as important as this is treated lightly, it raises a deeper question about how seriously we approach the very foundation of Eid itself, especially when it comes to the central act that defines the day. As the morning of Eid unfolds and the atmosphere fills with Takbeer, there is one moment that stands at the very center of this blessed day, the Eid prayer. This is not just another prayer added to your routine. It is a powerful symbol of unity, gratitude, and submission to Allah. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, would leave his home early, walking towards the prayer ground with humility and remembrance, and he encouraged the entire community to gather, men, women, and even children. This gathering is not random. It is a reflection of the Ummah standing together, equal before Allah, celebrating not wealth or status, but guidance and iman. When you step into the place of prayer, you are entering a moment that connects your personal journey of Ramadan with the collective identity of Islam. You stand shoulder to shoulder with people from all walks of life, dressed differently, living different realities, yet united by one purpose: to worship Allah and thank Him for bringing you to this day. There is something deeply humbling about this scene. It reminds you that no matter who you are outside, in front of Allah, you are simply His servant. The Prophet, peace be upon him, emphasized attending this prayer to such an extent that even those who were not obligated in other circumstances were encouraged to witness it, to be part of the al-khaya and the da'ah of the believers. This shows that Eid is not meant to be celebrated in isolation or treated casually. Missing the Eid prayer without a valid reason is not just skipping an event, it is missing the heart of Eid itself. And yet, in today's reality, many people delay, rush, or even neglect this prayer. Some prioritize sleep after late night, others get caught up in preparations, and some attend physically but are mentally absent. The khutbah that follows is often overlooked as people begin leaving early or engaging in conversation, forgetting that it carries reminders and guidance meant to shape their lives beyond Eid. This is where the depth of the day begins to fade. Because when the most important gathering of Eid is treated as optional or secondary, the entire purpose of the celebration begins to wear. Imagine standing in that prayer knowing that Allah has allowed you to complete Ramadan, allowed you to reach Eid, and given you the chance to be among those who remember Him. This moment is not guaranteed. There are people who were with you at the beginning of Ramadan, but are not here today. There are hearts that wished to witness this Eid, but could not. So when you stand there, it should be with hadara, with humility, with a heart that feels the weight of this blessing. But if this central act is rushed, neglected, or stripped of its meaning, then what follows afterward can easily become empty celebration. Because once the foundation is weak, everything built upon it begins to lose its strength. And when the focus shifts entirely to enjoyment without grounding it in ibadah, the line between permissible joy and heedlessness becomes thinner than we realize, quietly shaping how the rest of the day unfolds. Once the prayer is complete and the greetings of Eid Mubarak begin to spread, the day opens into moments of joy, laughter, and connection. This is the beauty of Eid. It is not meant to be a day of restriction, but a day of halal happiness. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, allowed expressions of joy and encouraged the believers to celebrate, showing that Islam is not a religion that suppresses happiness, but one that guides it. There were moments during Eid where people would engage in permissible forms of entertainment, where families would gather, and where smiles would be shared freely. This teaches us that joy itself can be an act of worship when it is kept within the boundaries set by Allah. One of the most emphasized aspects of this day is strengthening relationships. Eid is not just about your personal happiness, it is about reconnecting with those around you, visiting relatives, calling those you have lost touch with, forgiving past grievances, and restoring broken ties are all acts that carry immense reward. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, exchange gifts, as that will lead to increasing your love for one another. This simple action has deep wisdom. A small gift, a kind word, a sincere visit. These can heal hearts that have been distant for months or even years. Eid becomes a bridge, reconnecting what was once broken. But here lies a test that is often overlooked. As joy increases, so does the risk of crossing limits. What begins as celebration can slowly turn into excess. Gatherings may include backbiting, music that distracts from remembrance, immodest behavior, or wastefulness in food and spending. Without realizing it, the nafsan begins to take control, and the nafsan does not understand balance. It only speaks more. This is where a believer must remain conscious. Your laughter should not lead to heedlessness. Your enjoyment should not lead to sin, and your freedom should not lead you away from Allah. Think about it. After spending an entire month disciplining your desires, would it make sense to lose that control in a single day? Eid is not a reward for abandoning restraint. It is a reward for maintaining it. True joy in Islam is not found in disobedience, but in knowing that even in your moments of happiness, you are still pleasing Allah. And sometimes the most dangerous shift is not obvious. It is not always in major things, but in small compromises that slowly become normalized. A gathering here, a careless word there, a moment of negligence that seems harmless. But over time, these moments begin to chip away at the spiritual strength you built in Ramadan. The qawgab that was once soft becomes slightly harder. The remembrance that was once constant becomes less frequent, and the awareness of Allah begins to fade quietly in the background. So while you celebrate, remain aware. While you enjoy, remain grateful. Because if the joy of Eid causes you to slowly drift away from the very purpose of Ramadan, then what you gained in a month can begin to slip in a matter of hours. And when that happens, the question is no longer how you celebrated Eid, but what remains after it is over. As the day of Eid begins to settle and the excitement slowly fades, a deeper and more critical reality starts to emerge. What happens after Eid? This is where the true test begins. Ramadan was a training ground, a sacred festival where you disciplined your desires, strengthened your connection with Allah, and tasted the sweetness of consistent ibadah. But Eid is not the finish line. It is the transition. It is the moment that reveals whether your transformation was temporary or sincere. Allah reminds us in the Quran, and worship your Lord until there comes to you the certainty, death. This verse is not limited to Ramadan. It is a lifelong command. It is a reminder that your relationship with Allah does not end with a month, nor does it pause after a day of celebration. Many people unknowingly fall into a dangerous pattern. During Ramadan, their hearts are alive. Quran is recited daily, prayers are performed on time, and sins are avoided with effort. But as soon as Eid passes, there is a gradual return to old habits. The Quran that was once opened every day begins to gather dust. The night prayers that once felt natural become rare. The tongue that was controlled begins to slip again. And this shift does not happen overnight. It happens quietly, step by step, until a person finds themselves far from where they once were. This is not just a loss of routine. It is a loss of momentum, a loss of spiritual connection that was built with so much effort. The righteous predecessors used to fear not whether they would reach Ramadan, but whether their Ramadan would be accepted. And one of the signs of acceptance is consistency after it ends. If you find yourself continuing even a portion of your good deeds, protecting your prayers, maintaining your character, remembering Allah in your daily life, then this is a hopeful sign that your Ramadan had an impact. But if everything stops the moment Eid passes, then it is the warning sign that the change may not have reached the heart. Consistency does not mean perfection. You are not expected to maintain the exact same level of ibadah, but you are expected to hold on. Even small regular actions are beloved to Allah when they are done consistently. A few verses of Quran daily, sincere dua, guarding your namaz day. These are the anchors that keep your heart connected. Because the reality is this, Shaitan does not stop working after Ramadan. He simply changes his strategy. If he could not pull you away during Ramadan, he will try to pull you back afterward. And if a person becomes careless, thinking that the effort is over, they may slowly undo everything they worked so hard to achieve. So as Eid concludes, the real question is not how beautifully you celebrated, but how firmly you continue. Because what truly matters is not just reaching the end of Ramadan, but remaining on the path that Ramadan placed you on. A path that only leads forward, either toward closeness with Allah, or slowly, silently away from Him. So now, ask yourself again, are you truly celebrating Eid the way Islam teaches? Eid is not just a day, it is a reflection of your entire Ramadan. It is a test of whether your heart has changed, whether your connection with Allah has strengthened, and whether your actions reflect sincerity. If your Eid begins with gratitude, is filled with remembrance, includes charity, prayer, kindness, and ends with a commitment to stay close to Allah, then congratulations, you have truly celebrated Eid. But if Eid becomes a day where Allah is forgotten, where prayers are missed, where modesty is ignored, and where the focus shifts completely to the dunya, then something is missing. Remember, Allah did not gift you Eid just to celebrate. He gifted it to elevate you. The Prophet, peace be upon him, turned Eid into a day of unity, compassion, and remembrance. And if you follow his way, your Eid will not just be joyful, it will be accepted. Because in the end, it's not about how loud your celebration was, it's about how sincere it was. It's about how sincere it was. So this Eid, choose differently. Choose purpose over distraction. Choose gratitude over extravagance. Choose Allah over everything. And if this message touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with others so they too can experience a meaningful Eid. Subscribe to Menk Guidance and be part of a journey that strengthens your iman, one reminder at a time.